Hello, everyone. Today I would like to talk to you about how to manage smutgrass in low input systems for livestock and hay production. It's a growing trend that is becoming a major issue for these operations. A lot of the problems that we're seeing are inputs are limited with these producers, and so controlling smutgrass can be an issue in this case. And so that's why this title is framed around killing smutgrass in pastures and using everything but the kitchen sink, because it is going to take a diversified approach um, to manage this aggressive weed species in pasture systems. So I'll give you a little bit of history and geographical range about smutgrass. It's a non-native, tough-forming invasive species. It is originated in tropical Asia, and the origin into this country, introduction into this country is unknown at this point still. But there are two major varieties that are found here in the southeast: small and giant smutgrass. It is, like I said, it is found here, primarily found in the southeast, but you can see it in other regions of the country where you see sandy soils, and is predominantly in warm season forage systems, typically found here in South Georgia, in Florida, in Bahia grass and Bermuda grass pastures. It prefers that sandy soil, and it is very competitive, highly competitive. Um, each plant can produce up to 30 panicles, um, with 1,400 seeds per panicle, which estimates to around 45,000 seeds per plant. It's not as much as Palmer amaranth and some other really aggressive weeds, but it is a non-native invasive species, so it is very difficult to get rid of. So what's the problem? Um, it has weedy characteristics, um, such as germination requirements are fulfilled in many environments. It has discontinuous germination, a rapid growth through vegetative stages, continuous seed production. It is self-compatible, very high seed output, as I discussed earlier, and production of some seed in a wide range of environmental conditions. It has protective husks, and it remains viable for up to 2 years. And especially here in the southeast, since we don't, in South Georgia particularly, since we don't see too many frost days, germination requirements are very broad, and temperature ranges um, from 15 degrees Celsius and up. Another issue is grazing selectivity, as you see in this top photo, is that once it reaches a certain point and becomes too mature, the cattle will not graze it, and so it typically um, will will produce more seed heads because of this selective grazing and can exacerbate the issue. And because it is a grassy weed and not a broadleaf weed in pasture systems, it is difficult to control because there are few herbicide options on the table to use. Um, so complete infestation is plausible. As you can see, this top photo, there's not much grass there to graze. And so the question is, when do we act on smutgrass infestation? Because of the economic viability, there's options out there, but they're fairly expensive. And research shows that we shouldn't act on this until it's roughly 30 to 40%. So picking the right tools for the job, um, there is some difficulties with this because not all control strategies are effective, such as mowing. research was done in the early 80s with smutgrass, and they found that mowing did reduce smutgrass um, slightly, but what had happened was, because of these continued mowing events, what actually happened is they had seed production, high seed production from it, and from dispersing that seed more broadly across the landscape. And you also have burning, which is an option, and total renovation. And some of these are expensive, and for low input operations, they can't afford to do this. Or in some instances, with the type of forage system you're trying to grow, burning could be a hazard to your desired forage. And so intensive rotational grazing is also possible, but in low input systems, usually that's not plausible. And so what we are left with and rely on mostly is herbicides and fertilizers. So what are the herbicide options? Currently in the state of Georgia, Prowl H2O is one of the main recommendations for pastures. However, it doesn't work on smutgrass, so we cannot use it. So what are we left with? We're left with Velpar, which is hexazinone, which is a post-emergent herbicide, and we're also left with Resilon and Dazaflam, which is a pre-emergent herbicide. And so, Velpar is a fairly expensive option, as is Resilon, but that's why we wait until we have that 30 to 40% before we're using it and spraying it onto our fields. And here in these slides, you can see some of the symptomology of Velpar, which is a PS2 inhibitor, up in the top left corner. And then also with Indaziflam, a pre-emergent, we can see that it causes some issues with root development and seed and cellulose bio inhibitors, and causes some stem girdling here. With increasing resistance to herbicide applications, diversification is crucial. So combining different modes of actions, like you see with Velpar and Resilon, addresses a broader time frame of weed emergence. And so the timing, when should we apply these things? Because both of these need water for translocation to the root system. So it's sprayed, and then we require water to infiltrate the soil where it can be taken up by the plant through the roots. And so timing is important. We need to make sure that we have water, and we also need to apply these when it is appropriate. As for Resilon, it's typically applied in the spring at greenup, whereas Velpar is applied in June or July when the grass is actively growing. And so, is herbicide alone enough to mitigate smutgrass populations for improving yields of our desired forages like Bahia grass or Bermuda? Or does this open up opportunity and competition for shifts in weed populations? And this is where diversification is important. So we need a helpful boost once this herbicide application has been sprayed. The termination of smutgrass from herbicide treatments, opens up occupied space. And so this allows opportunity for desired forages or possibly other weedy species to infiltrate that new space and expand. So it's important to have nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium to provide a timely boost to further develop plant structures such as stems, tillers, leaves, rhizomes, stolons, and roots. And so this nutrient supplementation is an effective tool for weed for weed suppression as a nutrient-rich, aggressively growing forage. Outcompetes weeds for unoccupied space by giving it a clear competitive advantage with the influx of nutrients. So it will compete with light, space, nutrients, and when should we apply this? And recommendations currently are showing that we should apply this when the plant needs it, and that usually is in a split application from uh, April and July. And rate recommendations may vary depending on soil testing recommendations, but typically what we're seeing from research is either 50 pounds per acre for nitrogen and 50 pounds per acre for potassium. And so effective management is through diversification by combining different modes of actions with herbicides and combining fertilizer and stacking these strategies, which helps to reduce resistance. It increases vigor of the desired forages. It increases residual activity because, smutgrass control is fairly expensive, especially for these, like I said, these low input operations. And so we need to ensure that our management is effective, and we need to increase the effectiveness. And so, as you can see in some research here, the more studies, or the more factors that you combine, and the more strategies that you combine, and stacking these strategies, you can see that these applications provide better growth for Bahia grass while reducing smutgrass populations. And so it is important to understand how smutgrass functions in a forage system, and how um, controlling smutgrass alone with herbicides without fertilizers could also open up competition for new weed species. And so that's why we're seeing um, better results by combining these two factors together and stacking our strategies. And so that is all I have for you today for um, killing smutgrass in forage systems. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.